The Orion sensors registered the anomaly just as Captain Sarah Chen was finishing her daily report. 3 vessels had appeared at the edge of the Helios sector, their energy signatures unlike anything in Earth's database. After decades of searching for intelligent life, humanity's first contact was about to begin. Just not in the way anyone had expected. Analysis, Chen ordered, her voice steady despite the surge of adrenaline. The bridge crew of the exploration vessel worked with practiced efficiency, their movements precise in the dim blue light of their stations. Unknown configuration, Captain. Lieutenant Rivera reported from the science station, his dark eyes fixed on the scrolling data. But their energy output suggests advanced propulsion systems, possibly quantum-based. They're maintaining formation at coordinates 227 Mark IV, approximately 2 light minutes from our position. Chen nodded, studying the tactical display. The Orion was officially a research vessel, but like all ships in the Earth Defense Fleet, she carried enough firepower to defend herself. First contact protocols were clear. Attempt peaceful communication while maintaining a defensive posture. Communications broadcast the first contact package on all frequencies. Standard greeting, full spectrum. Broadcasting now, Captain, responded Communications Officer Zhang. The message would be going out in multiple formats: mathematical sequences, visual representations, and basic linguistic patterns developed by Earth's best xenolinguists. The response came faster than anyone expected. The burst of data flooded their systems, automatically translated by their AI. The alien vessels belonged to something called the Galactic Concordat, a coalition of spacefaring species that claimed authority over this sector of space. Their message was polite but firm. The Orion was in restricted space and needed to power down its systems for immediate inspection. Quite the welcome wagon, Chen muttered, then raised her voice. Status of their weapon systems. Active but not targeting us. Tactical Officer Puddle reported. Their shields are up. Configuration suggests defensive capabilities significantly beyond our own. Chen weighed her options. Earth had been preparing for this moment for generations, but theory was different from reality. The Concordat ships were arranged in a standard containment pattern. They clearly had experience with first contact situations, but something about their approach felt wrong. Why hadn't they attempted visual communication? Why the immediate demand for submission? Send our response, Chen decided. We acknowledge their presence and authority, but request a face-to-face meeting before any system shutdown. Remind them we're an exploration vessel from a previously unknown species seeking peaceful contact. The aliens' response was immediate and unexpected. All 3 vessels suddenly powered up their weapon systems, targeting locks engaging simultaneously. Your vessel's energy signature matches known configurations of the Nexus Collective, came the translated response. Deception will not be tolerated. Power down immediately or face destruction. Chen's blood ran cold. They were being mistaken for someone else, someone the Concordat considered an enemy. All hands to battle stations, she ordered, keeping her voice calm. But do not, I repeat, do not power up weapons. Shields at maximum. The bridge transformed as red alert lighting activated. Chen could feel the tension in her crew, but they maintained their discipline. Years of training were paying off. Broadcasting on all frequencies, she announced. Concordat vessels, we do not know of this Nexus Collective. We are humanity's first deep space vessel to reach this sector. We can prove our identity through peaceful dialogue. Please respond. The lead Concordat ship fired a warning shot, the energy beam passing close enough to make the Orion's shields flare. Chen gritted her teeth. First contact was rapidly becoming first combat, and she couldn't let that happen. Not just for the Orion's sake, but for all of humanity. New plan, she announced. Mr. Rivera, those quantum signatures you detected, can we match them? The science officer's eyes widened as he understood. Yes, Captain. We can modulate our shield harmonics to create a similar pattern, but it would require dropping our shields for 2.3 seconds. A lifetime in combat. Patel muttered from tactical. But also proof we're not who they think we are, Chen countered. The Nexus Collective wouldn't risk dropping their shields. Mr. Rivera, prepare the modulation. Communications, prepare to broadcast a full database dump of Earth's history and cultural records the moment our shields change. Let's show them exactly who we are. The Concordat ships were moving closer, their weapons still trained on the Oran. Chen took a deep breath. Everything rode on this gamble, not just their lives, but humanity's first impression on the galactic stage. Now, she ordered. The Orion's shields dropped. In that moment of vulnerability, Rivera executed the modulation while Zhang sent the broadcast. The shields came back up, now pulsing with the same quantum signature as the Concordat vessels, a sign of trust and technological understanding. For several tense seconds, nothing happened. Then the Concordat ships powered down their weapons. A new transmission came through, this time with visual data. The alien commander appeared on their main screen, a tall, elegant being with iridescent scales and multiple eyes. "We appear to have made an error," the alien said, its translator working to convey the complex harmonics of its speech. "Your response was unexpected. The Nexus Collective would never expose themselves as you did. We formally request dialogue." Chen allowed herself a small smile. "We would be honored," she replied. "Though in the future, we hope the Concordat will consider that not all unknown vessels are potential enemies. A lesson we are learning now," the alien commander agreed. "Perhaps humanity has more to teach us than we initially assumed." As the two vessels prepared for proper first contact procedures, Chen couldn't help but think that humanity's entrance onto the galactic stage, while Rocky, had demonstrated exactly what made their species unique: the willingness to take calculated risks in the name of peace and the creativity to turn a potential battle into a dialogue. The real challenge, she suspected, was just beginning. But at least now, they had a chance to face it together. The diplomatic chamber aboard the Concordat flagship Eternal Dawn hummed with tension. Captain Chen sat across from first speaker Vextal, trying to read the alien's complex facial patterns. The iridescent scales around Vextal's eyes shifted through patterns that the human translation matrix was still struggling to interpret. "Your species achieved quantum shielding without assistance?" Vextal asked, multiple eyes blinking in sequence. "Impossible. The mathematical principles alone took the Concordat 3 centuries to master." Chen smiled diplomatically. "We had to. Our solar system passes through a dense asteroid field every 42 years. Traditional shields couldn't handle the particle impacts." Before Vextal could respond, alarms blared through both ships. Lieutenant Rivera's voice came through Chen's comm. "Captain, massive spatial distortion detected at the sector's edge. Energy readings are... Ma'am, you need to see this." The diplomatic chamber's holographic display activated, showing a tear in spacetime that seemed to swallow light itself. But it was what emerged from the tear that made Chen's blood run cold. A massive structure, organic yet geometric, its surface writhing with what looked like living metal. "World Eater," Vextal whispered, all four hands clenching in what Chen now recognized as their species' gesture of fear. "We thought they were just legends." The structure began to unfold like a deadly flower, extending appendages that seemed to drain the very light from nearby stars. Chen's tactical training kicked in immediately. "Those tendrils, they're not just for show. They're collecting something from the stellar material." Vextal nodded grimly. "The legends say they consume the fundamental forces that bind reality together. Where they pass, physics itself begins to break down." The alien leader's scales had shifted to a deep purple, a color Chen hadn't seen before. "How long?" Chen asked, already reaching for her comm. Based on its current trajectory and consumption rate, Vextal consulted a floating display. "This sector has perhaps 48 standard hours before space-time destabilization begins. The neighboring sectors will follow within days." Chen's mind raced through possibilities. The Orion sensors were already gathering data, and something about the World Eater's movement patterns seemed familiar. That structure, it's not random. There's a mathematical progression to how it unfolds. She pulled up the sensor data, displaying it alongside the Concordat's historical records. Look here, every expansion follows the same sequence. It's not just consuming energy, it's processing it through specific patterns. Vextile scales shifted to a new color, one that the translation matrix identified as indicating intense focus. You're right. In all our records of these beings, no one ever noticed. We were too busy running or fighting. Because you were looking at it as a weapon, Chen said, her excitement building despite the dire situation. But what if it's not just a weapon? What if it's a machine? Every machine has an operating system, and every system has protocols that can be understood or disrupted. The alien leader studied her with all four eyes. You propose we attempt to hack a cosmic horror. I propose we try to understand it, Chen corrected. Your people have centuries of theoretical knowledge about quantum mechanics. We humans had to learn to manipulate quantum fields practically to survive. Together, a new alarm sounded. The World Eater had launched smaller versions of itself, probe-like entities that moved with terrible purpose toward both fleets. Time for decision-making is over, Vextile announced, scales now pulsing with rapid color changes. The Concordat fleet will engage the threat according to standard protocols. Chen grabbed the alien leader's arm, a serious breach of protocol that made every Concordat officer in the room reach for their weapons. Wait. Standard protocols against something that defies standard physics will only get your people killed. Let us help. Why? Vextile asked, not pulling away despite the tension. Less than 6 hours ago, we nearly opened fire on your vessel. Why would you risk your ship, your crew, to help us? Chen's answer came without hesitation. Because that's what humans do. We see the impossible, and instead of running from it, we try to understand it, to solve it. And right now, solving this problem might take both our species' strengths. The World Eater's probes were getting closer, their approach causing visible distortions in space. But Chen noticed something else in the sensor data, a pattern in how they moved, how they processed the energy they consumed. Look, she said, highlighting the data. They're not just feeding randomly. There's a sequence to their consumption pattern. If we can understand it, we might be able to predict it. Vextile finished, scales shifting to a color that needed no translation. Hope. The alien leader turned to their officers. Contact all ships. We will coordinate with the humans. As both fleets began to move into defensive positions, Chen couldn't help but feel a grim satisfaction. Humanity's first contact had nearly ended in battle, but now they faced a much greater threat, one that would require both species to overcome their differences and combine their knowledge in ways neither had imagined possible. The World Eater's probes were almost upon them, but Chen was already formulating a plan. Sometimes the greatest discoveries came from the darkest moments, and humanity had a long history of turning impossible situations into opportunities for advancement. All hands, she broadcast to her crew, prepare for close-quarter maneuvering. We're about to show the Concordat why humans never give up, even when the laws of physics themselves seem to be against us. The battle for survival was about to begin, and with it, perhaps the greatest scientific collaboration in galactic history. The Orion's Bridge was a hub of frantic activity as humans and Concordat scientists worked side by side, analyzing data streams from the approaching World Eater probes. Lieutenant Rivera had converted his science station into a shared workspace, his hands flying over the controls alongside a Concordat quantum specialist named Zax. There, Chen pointed at a pattern in the energy readings. Every seventh sequence, the probes pause their consumption for 2.3 microseconds. They're processing the energy in batches. Yes, but why? Zax's crystalline appendages clicked rapidly against the console. Such inefficiency in a system this advanced. It's not inefficiency, Rivera interrupted, his eyes wide with realization. It's a reset cycle, like a computer clearing its cache, or a living being taking a breath. Chen felt pieces clicking into place, which means for that fraction of a second, they're vulnerable. First, Speaker Vextal, your ship's quantum cannons. How quickly can they cycle? The Concordat leader's scales rippled with understanding. 1.8 microseconds at maximum charge. Not fast enough to exploit the window. Ours can fire in 1 microsecond, Chen said, allowing herself a small smile. But they lack the raw power of your quantum weapons. However, if we combine them. The ship rocked as the first wave of probes began their attack. Space itself seemed to warp around their vessels, reality becoming uncertain at the edges. Through the view screen, Chen watched in horror as one of the Concordat ships strayed too close to a probe. The ship didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist, the laws of physics in that region breaking down completely. We need to act now, Vextal declared. What is your plan, Captain Chen? We modify your quantum cannons with our rapid cycling technology. Your ships provide the power. Ours provide the precision timing. She turned to her chief engineer. Adams, can we do it? In the middle of a battle, while reality itself is breaking down around us. Adams ran a hand through her gray-streaked hair. Maybe, but we'd need to link our systems directly to theirs. No one's ever attempted to merge human and Concordat technology before. No time like the present, Chen said. Vextal, choose your fastest ship. We'll attempt the modification there first. The next 20 minutes were chaos as engineering teams from both species worked to merge technologies that were never meant to interact. The World Eater's probes pressed closer, breaking down the fabric of space-time around the fleet. 3 more ships were lost, 2 Concordat, 1 human. Connection established. Adams reported finally, her voice tense. But Captain, the power requirements are massive. We'll only get 1 shot at this. Chen nodded grimly. Then we make it count. All ships, form up on our position. We need to draw those probes into a tight formation. You want to attract them. Vextal's scales shifted to a color that the translation matrix identified as disbelief. The strategy defies logic. Sometimes the best human strategies do, Chen replied. Trust us. Rivera, status of the main probe. Still processing its last energy collection, Captain. Next reset cycle in 40 seconds. Chen opened a channel to all ships. This is Captain Chen. What we're about to attempt has never been done before. We're going to deliberately attract the probe's attention, bunch them up, then hit them with everything we've got during their reset cycle. Timing will be critical. She watched as both fleets moved into position, human and Concordat ships working in perfect synchronization, despite having met only hours ago. The probes, drawn by the concentrated energy signatures, began to cluster. Reset cycle in 10 seconds, Rivera announced. 9, 8. All ships, prepare to fire on my mark, Chen ordered. The modified quantum cannon hummed with power, human, and Concordat technology working together in ways neither species had imagined possible. 7, 6, 5. Space buckled around them as the probes moved to surround the fleet. The Orion's hull groaned under the strain of physics gone wrong. 4, 3, 2. All ships, Chen commanded, fire. The combined fleet fired as one. Human precision targeting merged with Concordat quantum power, creating a weapon that existed for less than 2 seconds, but changed everything. The blast caught the probes at their most vulnerable moment, during that crucial reset cycle. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself appeared to hiccup. The probes didn't explode. They imploded, taking their twisted physics with them. When the energy dissipated, normal space had been restored. Direct hit, Rivera reported, his voice barely containing his excitement. All probes neutralized. The space-time distortions are stabilizing. But Chen's attention was already on the main viewer, where the World Eater itself was reacting to the destruction of its probes. The massive structure's movements had changed, becoming less certain, more erratic. It's not just a machine, she realized aloud. It's learning. And we just taught it that its probes aren't invincible. Which means, Vextal added, their scales shifting to a new color pattern. It will adapt. Change tactics. The real battle is only beginning. Chen nodded, already formulating new strategies. Then we'll adapt too. Together. She turned to the combined bridge crew. Rivera, Zax, start analyzing that sensor data. I want to know everything about how it reacted to our attack. Adams, see if you can improve the integration between our technologies. Something tells me we're going to need every advantage we can get. As both species crews rushed to comply, Chen couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. In the face of an impossible threat, humans and the Concordat had done more than just survive. They'd innovated, adapted, and overcome. But the World Eater still loomed in the distance, its vast form a reminder that their greatest challenge lay ahead. The question was, what would it do next, and would their newfound alliance be strong enough to face it? The World Eater's response to losing its probes was immediate and terrifying. The massive entity began to fold in on itself, its structure condensing into something denser and more purposeful. The space around it warped and twisted, reality straining under forces it was never meant to contain. Energy readings are off the scale, Rivera reported from his station, now crowded with both human and Concordat scientists. It's not just adapting, it's evolving. Chen watched the main viewer intently, her mind racing through possibilities. The combined fleet had withdrawn to a safe distance after their successful attack, but she knew they couldn't stay defensive forever. Show me the temporal readings from the last attack. Zax, the Concordat quantum specialist, manipulated the controls with his crystalline appendages. The correlation between the reset cycles and local time dilation is fascinating. When we struck, there was a momentary synchronization between normal spacetime and whatever physics the World Eater operates on, like two computer systems briefly sharing the same protocol. Adams added from engineering. She had been working non-stop with Concordat engineers to refine their hybrid weapons technology. Captain, I think I know why our combined attack worked. The human timing systems didn't just let us hit faster, they created a bridge between our physics and theirs. Chen leaned forward. Explain. The Concordat quantum cannons operate on principles that bend spacetime, Adams said, pulling up complex equations on the main screen. Our targeting systems use micro-adjustments in temporal flow to achieve precision. When we combined them, we created a point where both forms of physics had to coexist. Vextal finished, their scales shifting to the deep blue of intense thought. For that fraction of a second, the World Eater had to operate in our reality. The ship's AI highlighted a section of the sensor data, drawing everyone's attention. The World Eater's new configuration was creating patterns in spacetime, regular pulses that seemed to ripple through reality itself. It's building something, Rivera said quietly, using the fabric of spacetime as raw material. Chen felt a chill run down her spine. How long until it finishes? At current rates of space-time manipulation, 3 hours, Zax answered. After that, our models suggest it will be able to generate its own pocket universe, a space where our physics have no meaning. Then we have 3 hours to find a way to stop it, Chen declared. She turned to Adams. You said our systems created a bridge between physics. Can we expand that? Force it to stay in our reality long enough to hurt it? Adams shook her head. The power requirements would be astronomical. We'd need more energy than both fleets combined could generate. But Vextal's scales had shifted to a new color, one that the translation matrix identified as inspiration. Perhaps not. There is a technology we have never shared with other species. Too dangerous, too unpredictable. But given the circumstances, the alien leader gestured, and a new set of schematics appeared on the screen. Chen's eyes widened as she understood what she was seeing. A quantum cascade initiator. You can trigger chain reactions in spacetime itself. Theoretically, Vextal admitted. But we never solved the containment problem. The reaction spread too quickly, too chaotically. We lost an entire research station testing it. Because you were trying to control chaos, Chen said, excitement building in her voice. But what if we don't try to control it? What if we use that chaos? She moved to the tactical display, her fingers dancing over the controls. Look at how the World Eater processes energy. It's not just consuming it. It's ordering it, forcing chaos into patterns. What if that's its weakness? Understanding dawned on the faces of both human and Concordat crew members. Adams was the first to speak. We overload it with chaos it can't process. Force it to try to pattern something that defies patterning. Exactly, Chen confirmed. We combine your quantum cascade technology with our temporal precision systems. Create a weapon that doesn't just bridge different physics, it scrambles them completely. The calculations alone would take weeks. Zax protested, but his crystalline appendages were already moving over his console, running preliminary numbers. We have 3 hours, Chen reminded him. And we have something better than time. We have 2 species who think differently working together. Humans are good at finding patterns, yes, but we're even better at thinking outside them. And the Concordat understands quantum mechanics better than anyone in known space. Vextal's scales shifted through several colors before settling on one that needed no translation. Determination. It will require giving your species access to our most closely guarded technological secrets. And we'll have to share everything we know about temporal mechanics, Chen agreed, including the classified research. But right now, trust isn't just the best option, it's the only one. The World Eater's new form pulsed ominously in the distance, its transformation continuing. But on the bridge of the Orion, something else was transforming too. Humans and Concordat crew members began working together with new purpose, sharing knowledge that had been secret only hours before. Adams and her engineering team merged their temporal regulation systems with the Concordat's quantum technology. Rivera and Zax's scientific teams combined their understanding of physics, finding new ways to describe reality itself. Throughout the ship, barriers between species fell away in the face of necessity and shared purpose. 2 hours, 43 minutes until the World Eater completes its transformation, Rivera announced. Chen nodded grimly. Then we have 2 hours and 42 minutes to rewrite the laws of physics. Let's make them count. As both species raced against time, the World Eater continued its inexorable transformation, unaware that its greatest strength, its ability to manipulate and control reality, was about to become its greatest vulnerability. The question was, could 2 vastly different species learn to trust each other completely in time to save them all? Time seemed to flow differently on the Orion's bridge as human and Concordat crews worked to complete their desperate plan. The ship's computer cores ran hot with calculations that stretched the boundaries of both species' mathematics. In the center of it all, Captain Chen watched the countdown timer with growing tension. 15 minutes until the World Eater completed its transformation. Final systems check, Adams called from her engineering station, her voice rough from hours of non-stop work. Quantum Cascade Initiator is integrated with our temporal matrices. Power systems are ready, but we'll only get one shot at this. The calculations are as complete as they can be, Rivera added, sharing a meaningful look with his Concordat counterpart. Zax. We've mapped every possible interaction between normal spacetime and the World Eater's physics. Chen nodded, studying the tactical display where the World Eater loomed. Its new form was almost complete, a perfect geometric shape that somehow hurt the eyes to look at directly. Reality bent around it like light through a prism, fragmenting into possibilities that human minds were never meant to comprehend. All ships, report status, she commanded. The responses came quickly. Every vessel in the combined fleet had been modified with the new hybrid technology. Each ship now carried a piece of the puzzle, ready to act in perfect synchronization. Captain, Vextal's voice carried an unusual tone that made Chen turn. The Concordat leader's scales had shifted to a color she'd never seen before. There is something you should know. The calculations, they show a significant probability that this attempt could create a cascade effect beyond our control. Meaning? Chen asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Meaning that if we fail, we won't just fail to stop the World Eater. We could tear apart the fabric of reality in this entire sector. Every ship, every crew member, would cease to exist. Chen finished, along with every star and planet in range. She took a deep breath. Have you informed your fleet? Yes, they have all chosen to remain. But as the species who proposed this strategy, I felt you deserved to know the full stakes. Chen looked around her bridge, at the humans and aliens working side by side. None had stopped their preparations despite Shirley overhearing this conversation. Thank you for telling me. But we're not turning back. Humanity has never backed down from a challenge just because it was dangerous. The tactical display suddenly flared with warnings. The World Eater's transformation was accelerating. All ships, battle positions, Chen ordered. The combined fleet moved with practiced precision, forming a complex three-dimensional pattern around the entity. Each vessel's position had been calculated to create a perfect resonance pattern when they fired. 10 minutes to full transformation, Rivera reported. The space-time distortions are reaching critical levels. Chen opened a channel to all ships. This is Captain Chen. In the past day, we've seen the impossible become possible. Two species who had never met learned to trust each other, to combine their knowledge in ways neither thought possible. We face an entity that breaks the laws of physics, so we're going to rewrite those laws. She paused, watching as final adjustments were made across the fleet. Every ship knows its part. Every crew member understands the risks. But what the World Eater doesn't understand is that the true power of intelligence isn't in forcing order onto chaos. It's in finding harmony within it. Together, we're about to teach it that lesson. The World Eater's surface began to pulse with energy that defied description. Sensors showed its pocket universe beginning to form. All ships, power up cascade initiators, Chen commanded. Throughout the fleet, the hybrid devices hummed to life. Human temporal precision, guiding Concordat quantum power. Target coordinates locked. On my mark. Reality twisted around them as the World Eater made its final push for transformation. Ships' hulls groaned under the strain of competing physics. 5 minutes to point of no return, Rivera announced, his voice steady despite the pressure. All ships, synchronize firing solutions, Chen ordered. Across the fleet, human and Concordat targeting systems aligned, creating a web of potential energy that encompassed the World Eater. 3 minutes. Quantum cascade initiators at full power, Adams reported. Field harmonic stable. 1 minute. Chen took a final look around her bridge, at humans and aliens united in purpose, at technology that shouldn't exist working in perfect harmony. All ships, fire. The combined fleet fired as one. But unlike their previous attack, this time they weren't trying to force the World Eater into their physics. Instead, they created a quantum cascade of pure chaos, a storm of probability and possibility that overwhelmed the entity's attempts to impose order. Space itself seemed to shatter and reform, again and again, as two fundamentally different approaches to reality clashed. The World Eater's perfect geometric form began to fluctuate as it tried to process the unpredictable energy being forced into it. It's working. Rivera shouted over the sound of straining metal. The entity's trying to pattern the chaos. But it can't. The feedback is. The World Eater's form suddenly blazed with light that existed in no known spectrum. For a moment, reality itself held its breath. Then, with a silent explosion that rippled through dimensions, the entity collapsed in on itself. The pocket universe it had been creating imploded, taking the World Eater with it. When the energy dissipated, normal space-time rushed back in to fill the void. Entity destroyed. Rivera confirmed, his voice filled with awe. Space-time stabilizing across all sectors. Cheers erupted across the bridge. Human and Concordat voices raised together in celebration. Chen allowed herself to smile as she watched her crew embrace their alien counterparts, all ceremony forgotten in the joy of survival and victory. An impressive strategy, Vextal said quietly beside her, using chaos itself as a weapon. No Concordat tactician would have conceived of such an approach. That's the thing about humans, Chen replied. We don't just think outside the box. Sometimes we forget there was a box in the first place. The alien leader's scales shifted through patterns that the translation matrix interpreted as amusement, respect, and something deeper, hope. Perhaps that is exactly what the galaxy needs. The Concordat has maintained order for centuries, but today we learn that true progress often requires embracing uncertainty. As the combined fleet regrouped, preparing to assess the aftermath of their victory, Chen couldn't help but feel that they had achieved something far greater than defeating an impossible enemy. In less than a day, two species had gone from near conflict to true cooperation, proving that the greatest force in the universe wasn't order or chaos, but the willingness to learn from each other. The stars seemed brighter somehow as human and Concordat ships began their journey home together, carrying with them the seeds of a partnership that would change the galaxy forever.